And the neighbors, are responding. I mean, the neighbors used to complain to the county, and now they don't. Which the county tells me that's the good part.
That's good news. If it's quiet,
And they come down and they help
they
plant the plants and help weed the
plant.
weeds and enjoy this place. And they let us know when they see a new animal that they haven't seen before. And,
oh, that's
and the
wonderful.
whole habitat is coming back to life.
This is Peak Moment. We are living at a peak of human innovation, information, wealth, and health. But we're also at a peak of population and consumption, with rising temperatures and declining resources fueled by cheap oil and gas. Peak Moment Television, bringing you examples of positive responses to energy decline and climate change through local community action.
Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson, and I'm in Santa Barbara at an old landfill that doesn't look like a landfill. Things are growing everywhere, and that's not by accident. My guests are Karen Flagg and Don Hartley. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
You're with Growing Solutions. Now tell me the tagline. Growing Solutions.
For a sustainable world.
Well, that's what you're doing here, right?
Absolutely.
How did you get started? What is this?
We got started as we saw a need in Santa Barbara for native plants, for restoration projects. The water quality was poor, the beaches were closed, there was development with no concern for how close it was to the creek, and we were asked to grow some native plants. And so we got started at the local high school. The high school's 125 years old. It's been here for a long time. And we started growing a few plants, and it's grown from there, and we now have 6 nurseries. We grow about 100,000 plants a year.
My gosh, that's a lot of plants to be paying attention to.
It sure is.
Where do those plants go? What are you restoring?
We're primarily restoring riparian areas and wetlands.
Okay.
Sometimes chaparral, sometimes grassland. But a lot of it's related to water quality.
And who gets you to do this? I mean, somebody has to pay the bill.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Is it the city, the county?
City, county, mitigation. If there's any development going on, they need to mitigate for that. A lot of it is county of Santa Barbara. We've done some bioswales. What else have we done?
Lots of habitat.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also groups in town like the Audubon Society does restoration, Channel Keeper, some other nonprofits that do restoration, Urban Creeks Council organize it, so there's a lot of grassroots stuff. But a lot of it is bigger projects, like Karen was saying, that are based on mitigation from growth and development of one kind or the other. The reason that we're in business and the local nurseries don't do this is that we hand collect all these seeds so that we get the genetics properly done right. In the past, plants were bought from other areas with seed collected from other areas, and the botanists and ecologists noticed that these plants from other areas were hybridizing with our local natives, and they were contaminating our gene pool. So we were crazy enough to grow plants from hand-collected seed, which is very expensive.
And we track where they come from.
So you are taking seed from an area, propagating more plants, and then returning those back to that same area.
Same
Absolutely.
spot. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're really kind of keeping the purity there,
Right.
and you have a better chance for their survival, I would expect,
Right.
since they're
You
coming
do.
back to the
You
same
do.
environment.
Yeah.
So, Dawn, your background is in sustainable agriculture, right? How did you get into this?
Well, go way back. I went to Europe when I was a young kid, graduated from high school and took a year off and traveled around Europe, and it was during the energy crisis in the United States, and I was amazed that the Europeans had the same standard of living that we do, but they used half as many resources as we do. And I thought, this is crazy. People are shooting each other at gas stations to get in line.
Remember that first time around?
And,
yes.
And what for? Just so we can run these big gas guzzlers? So I said there's got to be a better way. And when I was in junior college, I was involved in a solar energy class, which led to working for solar companies. And then going to Berkeley, I kept studying solar. And when the solar industry sort of bogged down in the 80s, my other big love was agriculture and sustainable ag, because people don't realize how much energy it takes to grow food. In fact, a lot of times there's a net energy loss by the time you run the tractors and use the fertilizers and all the chemicals and everything.
Right. That's one of the things that I think is coming out as peak oil news is hitting. We're realizing how much oil we're eating. You know, to transport it, to refrigerate it,
absolutely,
and process it.
Exactly.
Process it,
the average molecule of food goes about 7,000 miles.
Serious?
Yeah.
7,000.
Because it's coming from South America, it's coming from all over the place. Well, just to transport that takes a tremendous amount of energy.
Which we are not going to be able to sustain.
We
I
are
mean,
not
that's
going to
basically the good
sustain.
news around peak oil is, you know, we're coming over the other side. We're not going to have more. It's going to be more expensive.
Right.
So we're going to need folks like you who are working on a local solution here to that.
That's right.
So what? Let's go back to the landfill. We are sitting on a landfill.
We're
It
sitting
doesn't
on a
look a
landfill.
lot like a landfill to me. It's an old landfill. So tell us what you're doing here.
Well, this was a landfill that was closed in the mid-60s. And under state law, it has to be managed in a certain way, and it has to have a cap. And we can't have trash floating to the surface and washing down, you know.
Down the rivers
They
and
want
so
it.
on.
They want it stable. And a couple winters ago, there was a big landslide a few miles away, and so they brought the soil and they decided this is the perfect opportunity
To add it on top of the landfill?
increase this cap, to make this cap. So we're the cap here where we're sitting. It's 30 feet down to where the landfill
So you've got
is.
30 feet worth of dirt.
It's subsoil. Yeah.
I see.
Right.
I
yeah.
see.
So it's a subsoil that came off a mountain. So it has basically no nutrients in it, no organic matter.
Right.
It's on a landfill. You know, it can't be used to grow food crops.
Sure, because of
Right.
the pollutants probably from that are coming out from the landfill.
that's just the standard law.
And you can't build houses.
You can't
No.
build houses on it. It's got these steep slopes. It's terraced. This particular space is zoned a public open space.
So you could walk in it.
You can walk in it. You
Move
can ride
around.
horses through here. You can bring your dogs here. You can bicycle. You know, you can recreate in a lot of different ways. But to date, it's been just kind of a weedy patch, you know, like this behind you. I mean, that's all non-native weeds up there.
Okay. Okay.
So we were asked to come in and stabilize the soil, make it look prettier for the neighbors, and to begin to turn the landfill into a passive open space park with native
yeah.
vegetation.
Okay.
And we were asked that because the county has leased us a piece of land up the road here for
Which
our,
is part of the
Where the
older
that-
landfill was.
That's
Right.
still landfill up there.
Okay.
and we had a lot of plants up there that were from this area, and they said, could you plant them down here?
And here, let's describe for folks what's up there in the other section that you're working from. Just describe. You've got a little nursery kind of area.
We have a nursery. We have with a grow out area. The nursery has we primarily for natives. We don't really need greenhouses. We have just shade fabric that just shades the area. We have a little shed for our tools and such. We have a composting toilet.
Right, because you wouldn't have sewer here.
We don't have
right?
sewer
Right.
here.
Solar
Can't-
system for our electricity.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a Airstream trailer for our office that was donated to us, and so Dawn hooked up solar, so I can run my computer.
Aha.
You know,
okay.
so we work right there on the deck.
I mean, that's simple. I mean, this is
Simple.
sustainable
Yeah.
living, right?
Yeah.
'Cause that's
Most
that's,
of the wood was recycled that we used.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was
Okay.
a company down in Carpinteria that went out of business, and they invited us to salvage whatever they didn't want. So we got cabinets and wood and, you know, furniture, all sorts of good stuff.
I'm going to stop on that for just a second because I think that there are many people who would not even consider that as a possibility for a way to live. And I think reusing materials is going to become far more frequent in the future because we're going to realize all the resources it takes to make things, let's keep them out of the landfill, let's use them.
And it's
we do.
actually usually it takes a little bit of communication, but it's generally a win-win. The people who don't need it anymore, it saves them from having the expense of hauling it away and disposing it.
Right.
And for the people who want it and it's useful, we don't have to purchase it.
Right.
You know, so it's a win-win for everyone.
And the landfills win and the planet wins and
Right.
all of that. So it's a
Exactly.
win-win in all many
Right.
dimensions.
Right.
So thanks, because I wanted people to get a flavor for all the little seedlings in your shade area, and Do you take the stuff from your composting toilet and put it into your plant compost?
We just fertilize the natives with it.
Yeah.
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 That's probably some of your best compost, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So here we are in this section here, this new subsoil,
Right.
flattened dirt, and they asked you to, let's go back to here, to what they want to have happen
Well, they
here.
wanted it was very harsh looking. It also, when the wind blew, you got dust blowing off of it. I mean, it looked like some sort of, I don't know, it just looked strange. You know, it was very, very rigid slopes and terraces. And so that we were asked to revegetate with natives, which we did on all the slopes.
Down towards a little
Down towards the-
watershed.
Down towards the creek.
The creek, yeah. So there's native plants on those slopes. Now up on the top here, we are growing this Jatropha curcus.
Okay, Jatropha
Curcus.
curcus. Tell us the story of this non-native plant, right?
Right, it's the only non-native plant that we grow. And the reason we're growing it is one of our board members has been involved in biodiesel for over 10 years.
Yeah, a long
And
time.
he's been making biodiesel out of used cooking grease, of which we've been running one of our vehicles in because we're trying to be sustainable in our business practices. And he is looking for the day when there's not going to be enough used cooking grease around.
To refine into
Yeah,
biodiesel.
to run the economy on for the short term until we come up with a better form of transportation than the automobile. And so what's going to happen then? If we're going to continue to use biodiesel, then we're going to need another feedstock. And so he's looking at a plant that won't grow in great soils and take food out of people's mouths, but will grow on marginal land and that doesn't take a lot of water, a lot of fertilizer, right? And this plant has been identified, there's been a lot of research has been done in India where they're already making biodiesel as having 50% oil in the nut.
50%, that sounds high.
It's very
that-
high.
that's
It's
high.
one of the
That's
highest
high.
oilseed contents of any nut on earth.
Aha.
And that nut will be squeezed and then
50% is oil.
Is oil. I mean,
Right.
like one squeezes a walnut to get walnut oil or like that.
Right.
So the Jatropha plant, where does it come from? India?
It originally came from Honduras and Cuba, but 500 years ago, the Portuguese explorers brought it
Took it
to
to
one of their
India.
colonies in India,
I
one of their
see.
trading posts, and they used it there for hedgerows, for fence lines, to keep wild animals.
And it's a medicinal. It's a medicinal.
And what is it? What kind of properties does it have?
You know, that part I'm not exactly sure, but they use it. They use it over in India as a sort of a
Somewhat.
cure-all kind of
Okay.
thing.
So it provides oil. Is it edible?
No,
It's
Not to
edible.
us,
Not,
no.
not for humans. For animals? Are there animals
Do they-
that will
I
want
think
it?
No,
they
one of the
use-
reasons they use it as a hedgerow is to keep the animals out, because the
Aha.
animals wouldn't eat it.
So that's good news
Right.
for that protection.
Then what happened was they noticed how much oil was in this thing a couple hundred years ago, so they started processing lamp oil from it.
yeah.
All right.
And when the Indian government was looking at alternatives to petroleum, because they don't have any of their own energy sources there, oil supplies, so they were looking at what grows in the country that they could make oil from. And they tested a bunch of different plants throughout the country, and they found that this plant here was the highest was the best candidate. So they have now done a big push to build rural nurseries all throughout India, grow this plant, give it to the rural villagers, let them grow it up, and then they'll come back and guarantee to buy the seed
Yeah.
back from them, and it doubles their monthly income.
So they're growing it, you know, in any little spot they have in their yard. They're growing it in medians in the road, you know, the side of the road,
Wherever they can find a piece
wherever
of
they can
land.
find a little place, you know. And then it's something that can be, you know, anybody can pick. They turn it in. You
It's
know,
a cash crop. I mean,
It's a
They
cash
get the
crop.
plants for free.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So they're providing the villagers provide the nuts, right? And then it goes somewhere and is processed to become what? For use for biodiesel or
Right,
for
right.
oil
Yeah, they
for-
take it to a big processing facility,
Okay.
and the Indian government then processes it and they run little 3-banger engines and stuff like that over there that get like 100 miles to the gallon. Little small diesels. So Russ went over there.
This is the man with biodiesel.
Biodiesel
Russ
Industries,
Steele.
right?
Right.
And he went over there, one of our board members, and has been working with the Indian government now. And the Indian government gave us some seed, and the USDA gave us a permit to bring it into the country.
Okay.
And one of the education groups that education organizations that we helped create, called the Green Academy. It's a high school environmental science curriculum. The students actually sowed the first seeds in the United States of America.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's
And
great.
grew these plants that are behind us. And then we had a big volunteer day where the neighbors came over and we put these plants in the ground. And
So-
eventually
This-
this will
yeah,
become
that's
diesel
right. Yep.
fuel.
Yep.
How many plants in this, acre? Half acre, how big this is?
A little quarter acre to a half
yeah.
acre. There's 255 plants,
Okay.
of which we're going to breed a higher yielding and hardier plant. This is really more of a test plot
Okay.
for breeding.
So then you'll be selecting to get the
Right, and so
the right
once they
qualities.
start fruiting and seeding, they'll be tested for the oil content, and we'll choose the ones that, make it through the winter, produce the most seed, produce the highest oil content, are healthiest.
So when you look at the question of growing fuel, I know that the numbers aren't particularly good if we were going to try and replace all of our diesel usage in America with biodiesel, at least from rapeseed and soy, which I think are the main sources. Somebody's calculated it'll take 4 America's worth of farmland, and we don't eat, to do
Right.
that. So I see that what you're attempting to do here, and help me with the numbers here, is to have a more productive plant that hopefully will not take land
That grows on marginal
away
soils.
from
Yeah.
food
Exactly.
land,
Exactly.
food-growing land.
Right.
It grows on marginal soils, doesn't need a lot of fertilizer or water.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we're not using prime agricultural land.
The problem with soy is that you take away prime ag land, and so it becomes either food or fuel, and then you have hunger so people can drive around in SUVs, and that's not very ethical. Yeah.
Not very ethical at
Yeah.
all.
No, it's not.
The wealthy can drive and the poor cannot eat.
That's
Not a good
right. That's right.
picture.
Not a good picture at all.
How big will these plants grow? Perhaps I realize that it's uncertain if it's a tropical plant and you're in a subtropical
Well, this is
kind of
a
area?
subtropical plant, and we're in a Mediterranean
I
climate.
see.
More of a temperate
Yeah,
climate.
so a temperate. So we have rainy winters, dry summers. You can feel we get a little bit of heat.
Oh, sure.
You
Here we are in November and it's in the 80s.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So we do get a little bit of heat.
So you're doing an experiment here to see how well this
Absolutely.
plant will do in this climate.
That's right, and we'll breed the ones that do the
Mm-hmm.
best.
So it could be a possibility, this pilot could grow to be a possibility for other areas, say in the southern part of America.
Right,
exactly.
like Arizona, maybe.
All the way to
or-
Texas, all the way to
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah.
Anything that's out of the frost zone.
Okay. So so you've got a multiple year project obviously here
Absolutely.
to be
Yeah.
developing.
3
how,
to 5 years
How
probably.
tall are these going to grow? Could they grow if you didn't touch them?
They can be huge trees, but they would be too hard to harvest.
All right.
So we will prune these at about 6 feet tall, which is about as high as somebody can reach up and
Right.
pick the nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
And then how do you harvest them? And then what's going to happen with the nuts? I mean, because at some point you hope to be in production here
Right.
to test this.
Well,
Right.
we'll have to test some mechanical harvesting equipment because just hand harvesting with the labor, rates
Yeah.
is way too.
We'll be looking
high.
for one of these young, bright engineers to invent us a machine.
I see. So
Right,
we've got a Jatropha nut
Yeah.
harvester.
Biodiesel
Yeah.
powered.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
And then
Yeah.
they go to
Jatropha
they go to refinery.
All right.
Once the oil gets pressed out of them, then they get refined into biodiesel with a very simple process, and then it goes to your
Gas
local
station.
gas
Back to your-
station.
back to your- yeah.
uh-huh.
The station, and for you, back to your own tractors and vehicles or whatever you're going to
That's
be
right.
using your trucks
Exactly.
to. So there you are, being this model of sustainable living, right? And that's the plan.
That's the hope,
yeah.
right? Yeah, we're already giving it a shot with our nursery and running biodiesel with cooking grease and composting and solar and local grassroots type stuff. really feel that, you know, that it's the bottom-up local movement that's going to create sustainability, and not really some top-down thing. We're not really counting on the government to you know, to implement any of these things. It's all grassroots.
It's
yeah.
folks like yourselves.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's happening. People are doing it in communities all over, you know, instituting things appropriate for their particular area.
That's for sure, and that is the hope. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people with
Yeah.
inventiveness that fits their situation. I mean, as I listen to you talk about what's possible with these cute little plants, I'm thinking, okay, will this work in my community? Well, no, I'm further north. I'm in the
Right.
mountains, so I get snow in the winter. It won't be the jatropha. I'm thinking, okay, well, somebody hunt up the plant that will work in the frost.
Yeah.
And there's definitely
Yeah.
plants.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, this is news to us. There are people that are, what kinds of stuff can grow in the colder climates.
Well, other non-edible nuts, you know, or even edible ones that are growing on marginal land. Like, for example, we grow a black walnut. It's the native black walnut. It's actually on the endangered plant list.
Species of concern, you know,
Ah.
California
And
Native Plant
it's the
Society.
rootstock
black
for
walnut.
all the English walnuts
Is
that
that
grow up in
right?
Northern
Okay.
California.
Yeah, so when you drive through those orchards and you see that kind of seam, you know,
Yes.
and the lower part looks different, that's where it was grafted on.
That's the native
So that's
nut.
our native.
Yeah,
our
it's the
native
lower.
walnut.
And it's a very hardy plant, but it's just been not taken care of, and it's been abused, but it could be grown in larger numbers and used. And, you know, I'm sure there's people up there in UC Davis and up north that would easily find you a plant to experiment with.
Acorns. I mean, we have acorns. I don't know
Right.
how well they do in the oil, but
There's quite a bit
Yeah.
of oil in
All the
acorns,
other
yeah.
animals like them.
they do indeed. The deer come crunching through in the fall. They're just working on those, as
Yeah.
of course the squirrels as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in our last 5 or 6 minutes here, I want to know what inspires you, what makes you feel good about what you're doing or what you see happening around you towards a sustainable future.
Well, we just came this morning from working with 30 high school kids, and you know, and they're young and they're cute and they're really naive, and we did a seed planting lab with them, and they were so enthusiastic and willing, and I'm very encouraged by the young people, and that I see them as being hopeful and open to change and concerned about what's going on, you know, but they're not worn down. And so
Yes.
and they're not so old and cynical and cranky. You know, they're very hopeful, and they have some good ideas, and I think that and I find that very encouraging. I mean, we have former students who keep in touch with us and call us from all parts of the world with the interesting things we're doing. We have a former student who's in Hawaii right now working on Rooftop Gardens which help cool buildings down. I mean, it's all part of the sustainability thing, and she started, she was in probably her first class, I think. You know, she started when she was a high school student, and she's now doing graduate work, and she's kept in touch all these years, and she's doing wonderful things. And we have many students like that. And
You're planting all kinds of seeds.
absolutely.
People
Absolutely.
seeds and plant seeds together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's part of your charter because the whole name of your whole organization, give it to us.
Is Growing Solutions Restoration Education Institute.
So
No, it's a
there's
lot
the
about the
education
education.
side.
Yeah.
It
So
would
we
seem
do
so.
a lot of education.
And a big part of it too is building models, because it's good, you know, you can talk about this stuff all you want, but unless you experiment with it and work the bugs out of it, then it's not going to be ready for more people to do, and people have to see it actually working. And that's what excites me is building working models of this stuff, and then seeing other people look at it and then adopt some form of that, and it just one more leap towards sustainability, and away from this unsustainable planet that we've created.
The models is really important. I think part of what we've
Absolutely.
attempted in Peak Moment is to find where are things happening on the ground.
Right. Right.
Because it means you have solved at least some of the problems and the hurdles so that you can grease the skids, if you will, for who wants to follow after you. And at least to raise the questions that they ought to be asking themselves.
Well, and it feels much more real. I mean, for people, people need to get their hands in and actually do things, and to sit around and just talk about it. I mean, that gets old really quick. as we know.
A lot of talkers are out there.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true. And this tests the ideas.
Tests
right?
the
Tests the
ideas.
Obviously, Russ has this idea
That's
of,
right.
might this plant work here? And you are the hands and the sweat checking, and the students that work with you to
Right.
see, well, how might it work?
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
of that with your bioswale and your remediation of your little watershed here, right next to the landfill, which could have an enormous amount of pollution coming off that landfill. So you're creating a little bit of the garden, if you will, by putting your
Absolutely.
native plants there.
Yeah, yeah. And the neighbors, are responding. I mean, the neighbors used to complain to the county, and now they don't. Which the county tells me that's the good part.
That's good news. If it's quiet,
Yeah,
And they
that's
come
correct.
down and they help
They
plant
help-
the plants
they
and
help
help weed the
plant.
weeds and
They-
enjoy this place. And
you
they let
know.
us know when they see a new animal that they haven't seen before.
oh, that's
And the
wonderful.
whole habitat is coming back to life.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we heard the red-tailed
We had
hawk
red-tailed
here.
hawks, yeah.
From a dump to a park to a
We-
living, functioning
Yeah,
ecosystem.
We have road runners here.
Oh,
Mountain lions. Foxes.
Snakes. I mean, it's, it doesn't, you only have to give nature a little nudge, and things will work out okay.
well, you've given it some very nice nudges. It feels like the place is in the midst of healing. To me, it's like it's not all back to where it was
No.
before the
Not even
landfill.
close.
Not close.
But it's on its way. It's on
right.
its way to that. And what's encouraging to me is that you're partly building community by having the neighbors feel part of this, and in a sense feeling like they're owners or they care.
Right,
You're bringing back that caring and that connection
absolutely.
to the land, the earth, the sun, and so on, and those animals. So you give me hope that the wild can, also still be
Right,
here, not just
right.
just in the
Right.
urban areas.
And that these local people, right next to this will start to feel a connection, and understand their connection and their relationship, and I think that it's pretty well demonstrated to them because they were very unhappy before.
And they're happier now.
Yeah.
So.
And there's a big nature deficit disorder with kids, and so the kids get out of the house and from the TV and the computer and get out here and get more connected with nature.
Exciting.
And
That's
once they
exciting.
get connected, then they have a stake in it, and they want to be stewards, and they want to help
Right.
protect it and enhance it. So we're trying to solve that nature deficit disorder in that process.
You're doing good work.
Well,
You're
thank
doing
you.
Thank you
wonderful
very, very
work.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Enjoy-
doing it. Thank you for staying with it.
Yeah, enjoy being on your show. It was really fun.
Thank you.
Really, really
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank you. You're watching Peak Moment, community responses for a changing energy future. I'm Janaea Donaldson. Join us next time.